You know, I've shown a lot of serging techniques on Sewing TikTok, and you can do so much with your serger. I get asked all the time, what can I do with my serger? Is it just for overcasting the edges of fabric? No, it can do so much more. In fact, today we're going to go a little elegant. See this beautiful little dress? It looks like it's hand sewn, or at least that it took hours. But this little dress was completely made on the serger, and it didn't take hours and hours to make. And I think it's very fancy. So today we are going to explore some heirloom techniques on the Babylock Accolade Serger. If you have a Babylock Serger, you can do most of these yourself. I'm Cathy, this is Sewing TikTok, and join me because this is really fun. So isn't this dress just all that? It is completely made on the serger. And the one thing that's good to know is you only use a few different types of stitches. Basically, we're going to use some small, elegant 3-thread narrow and some rolled hem. And the serger, it's really easy to set up for that. I want to show you another cute little dress. Isn't this sweet? Now, you may not be into little girls' dresses. You may not have a little one to sew for. But imagine this as a summer nightgown for you or me or anybody. You know, heirloom sewing is really popular in the South, and there's a reason why. When you want to know about hot and sticky, well, they know about hot and sticky in the South. So an heirloom nightgown, or even a shift, or even a blouse. That's something you might want to explore when it's all hot and you want to stay cool. So now let's explore some of the things that we can do. I have, for all my previous videos, given you different serger techniques, and I've created pages for what I like to call a lookbook. And what a lookbook is you can print out the pages from the handout. The handout shows you basically what we're going to be doing today, but I have pages that you can print out on like cardstock, put it in a page protector, sew your sample, and you can look through the book to find the technique that works for whatever project you're going to do. So we're getting our lookbook pretty full. I might have to start a second lookbook when I'm doing other videos. So you do have pages for this in the handout. To get the handout, go to the description. It's usually highlighted in blue, or you can go to mooressew.com, go to shop, find Sewing TikTok, and all my handouts are there. There should also be a link to the video. And print the handout and your lookbook pages and grab some fabric and maybe grab a little bit of lace. Now, when it comes to doing heirloom sewing, there's some basic things that we're going to do. I'm going to thread up the machine to show you how easy it is to thread up the Babylock self-threading Accolade. And I'm going to be using a red thread so that you can see what I'm doing. Obviously, you're going to be using a white thread. Any serger thread will do. Or it could just be a regular all-purpose thread as well. And there's lots of different fabrics that you can choose. Traditionally, batiste, which is a very thin muslin type fabric, is used. But if you don't want to go out, you want to just try this technique, get some muslin, wash it, and just some inexpensive lace. Trust me, you can go all out and get some very pricey fabrics and laces for that ultimate project. But just give it a try first. You might just make yourself something that you love enough that you want to dip your toe into going all into this technique. So now, let's just get this serger threaded. Basically, like I said, we're just going to do most of our techniques on heirloom sewing with a serger with a 3-thread. This Babylock Accolade does all the different overlock stitches, which it means it can go from a 2-thread overlock, 2-thread rolled hem, all the way up to a 4-thread. It also can do a cover stitch. So we can use the cover stitch for some heirloom techniques. I especially like it for applying trim. If we have time at the end, we'll do a little bit of that. But there's also a page for that in your handout. if I don't get to it today. So now let's get this serger threaded. It's a self-threading serger. So we have it set up for doing the overlock. I've pulled the threads up and straight down, and I just lay them in the holes. I'm just going to do a 3-thread narrow with an upper looper, lower looper, and that right-hand needle. Now let's get the serger threaded. What I'm going to do is flip this lever down here into threading from serging, turn the wheel on the side, and the serger is going to find its happy place. I put the needle in the right hand position, and all I do is I take my threads, pull them straight down. Now I can thread this serger in any order. I'm just going to take the thread, put the end of it into the slot. Now I've done this a lot of times, and I've showed you one at a time because I always say you want to see this again, but this serger can thread both the upper looper and the lower looper at the same time. So let's do that. So we're going to take our upper looper thread and put it in the U hole. We have our lower looper thread in the L hole, and you just want to stick about a 1/4 inch in there, push the button, and oh my goodness, I've just threaded both of my loopers in one fell shot. That was pretty easy. Now what we have to do is let's pull a little bit more in the lower looper. You can just keep pressing the button till you get enough thread that you want. Now that needle, for this serger, we have what's a little needle threader. And this works on your sewing machine as well. In fact, I say it works so good that we sell you a really good needle threader and we throw in a serger. So we're going to take this thread for the needle up, over, and down. Kind of feels like you're threading a sewing machine, but you're not. There's no take-up lever. We're going to come straight down under that little doohickey. Lay it across the little threader here, lay it against the needle, gently press, and as we come down to the eye of the needle, it's going to push that thread through the eye of the needle. So now that we have our machine threaded, all we have to do is put it into serging mode. So I'm just going to flip this lever up, and I'm pretty much good to go. I'm using the right hand needle, so I can use my handy dandy quick reference guide to let me know that I need to be on the B position on my stitch selector. I've already done that, and I'm ready to go. Like I said, I'm using red thread on a white fabric just so that you can see. Now here's my standard foot, and with the Babylock Accolade you can get a 16-foot kit. This is a clear foot that comes in that kit, or you can purchase it separately. I'm just going to start with the regular foot. I'm going to only be using a couple of extra feet today, but actually you can do this if you don't have any extra feet yet. You're probably going to want to get them. So now let's do the first part of our little page. Let's explore 2 different types of heirloom seams. Now for this little dress, this little pink dress here, I used a rolled hem. Now a rolled hem is a great seam. It looks very elegant. But on this little guess here, I just used a 2-thread narrow, and that's just that 3-thread and the right hand needle position. So let's sew that. I have a curved seam. Now if you're familiar with garment sewing, you know that if you sew a curved seam like this, you probably have to come in there and you have to do some clipping afterwards to release that seam so it flows around. If I'm using a 3-thread narrow, I generally don't have to do that. So let's see what that looks like. So there's my nice little seam. Now let's turn it right side out and see if we have to clip it. Basically, no. I can get a nice little seam and I don't even have to clip it. So it's going to look really elegant if my seam is exposed or even if it's not. Now let's change over to doing a rolled hem on the Babylock Accolade. Now most sergers out there, you kind of have to put on another plate, you get out the instruction book, you kind of have to hold your tongue a certain way. It's really simple on this serger to change over to a rolled hem. Basically, I'm just going to do two things. I'm going to tell the machine I want to use stitch selector D, and I turn this dial down here, which automatically changes it to a rolled hem. It says rolled hem right there on the dial. Now I can change the cutting width if I wish, but I think I'm pretty much okay. Let's see what this seam looks like with a rolled hem. Now, that's an even prettier little seam. See how I got a little bit of riffling there when I went across the bias? I can adjust that with my differential feed here on the side. So do a practice with your fabric, see if you need to, but I think you can see that's an even more elegant seam than even that narrow one. So pretty simple. Two different types of stitches, just a basic 3-thread narrow or a rolled hem. Now we're going to stay on this rolled hem for quite a bit of our heirloom sewing. So let's go and let's put some lace to fabric. Now like I said, you can get all kinds of different laces out there. I'm just going to add some what's called an entredeaux, and the entredeaux really is it's kind of a bridging. It kind of gives you like a lacy effect. If you look at it, what it has is it has this header on the side, but you want your stitching right along in here. Now if I was using a regular sewing machine, I'd have to sew this, then overcast this. I can do it in one fell swoop in the serger. So I am going to use a different foot for this because I need to see exactly where my needle is hitting. So let's take off the standard foot and let's put on the clear foot. Like I said, the clear foot comes in the kit, or you can get it separately, and I do modify mine just a tiny little bit. If you can look on the toe of the foot, there's little raised marks. Let me get my hand out of the way so that you can see. There's little raised marks. I just take a Sharpie marker and I make those a little bit darker on this clear foot so I can easily see them. I also put a line down here because I want this part of the lace to ride just to the left of that, so I know I'm stitching right along that. So now that I've modified my foot, we're going to install it. I already have my rolled hem set up, and all I need to do is stitch so that I'm coming with that mark just here. So let's see what we can do. I hope you notice I have a little leader before I come on in. That helps me kind of get everything set and judged. I'm only using an extra inch of that entredeaux, but it really helps me get everything set where I need to be right before I hit that fabric. Now I've made a mark on my fabric, and notice I'm trimming the fabric at the same time I'm inserting the lace. You don't have to. You could have that fabric all pre-cut. Now that clear foot sure makes this job easy. Can you see that my sewing is just to the right of that mark? When we open it up, oh my goodness, it's oh so pretty. And all I have to do is put this other fabric on the other side. And I've inserted some entredeaux into the bottom of my fabric. It would work the same for a lace as it does this entredeaux. Or if you have some sort of an embroidered insertion that you can put in. There's all kinds of available things, and you're really just putting in different sections into whatever fabric. You can really make almost your own fabric by joining fabric to fabric and lace to lace. Speaking of that, let's add some other lace. Let's see what's next on the hit parade. I'm going to use the same technique when it comes to adding like lace to fabric and not just entredeaux. So here's some lace, and here's some other little fabric. Let's take it out. All kinds of laces that you can use. Go ahead, buy just a few, maybe a quarter yard of each, so that you can experiment. So here is some basic lace. Here is a nice fun piece of a scrap of that little dress that I made. And here is my lace. If you look at the lace, there's the bottom of it, and then this is called the header, or the top of the lace. I'm doing the same thing. I'm just going to sew with that rolled hem right along this part of the lace, and it's going to sew it in absolutely beautifully. Let's sew it up to here. Let's cut my fabric off because I don't need this big of a piece. And let's make this little sample for this little page of our book. I always like to trim off a little bit of fabric when I'm doing a rolled hem because it gives it enough to grab it as it's coming around. Remember, that mark I made on the clear foot goes just to the left of that header of the lace. Really pretty, and when I pull it back to the back like this, I am just going to press it with an iron. And remember, I'd be using matching thread on my real garment. But look at how easy that was, and on the back side, it looks just as elegant. Now we've done entredeaux to fabric, we put some lace on fabric, let's put some lace to lace. It's really just the same technique. What you're doing is you're sewing so that you have the two parts of those lace right next to each other. So here is some, here is some bridging. Now you know what that is. There's the bridging. I've added a piece of lace to it, and I can add a piece of lace to the other side. I'm really just using that same technique. So let's take my little piece of lace. This time it doesn't have a bottom to it. It has the two heading or straight sides. We're going to lay this right along here. Now this time we need to get them both pretty darn close to where we want them to be, and I'm going to sew kind of slow to make sure I'm getting exactly what I want. Just look at your lace and figure out what needs to join to what. So there's my piece of entredeaux, and I've added a lace to the top, and I've added another lace to the bottom. So I've taken some simple trims and made it actually quite fancy. Remember, you're going to be using matching thread, and if it feels like you're getting too much thread in there, lengthen your stitch length. This is not going to be tugged on. It doesn't have to be super strong. So just increase your stitch length, maybe put a nice thin thread in there, and you should get some really pretty results. So far, so good, so easy, right? We've really just been on the 3-thread narrow, and we've used our rolled hem. Now, there's other things that you can do in Heirloom Sew-'em. They use a lot of maybe ruffles, you can do some puffing, and I've done a lot of videos on gathering with a Babylock Serger. But let's just review just a little bit. I want to show you how simple it is to change over, to go over to gathering or ruffling. So, available for the Babylock Accolade is the inspiration guide, and all of these techniques are in there, as well as my handout. But even the techniques I won't be talking about today, for example, attaching fabric and lace to elastic, So maybe you want to do a little puffy sleeve or a little neckline. Those techniques are available, and the serger can do them all really well. So the inspiration guide really can help you on some of the techniques that you might look at a pattern and you might want to do. I might not have covered it, but the inspiration guide shows you because the sewing machine can do it. So now let's talk a little bit about a slightly different foot, the ruffling foot. Like I said, I have done other videos where I've talked about ruffling with the serger. I don't think I gather anything anymore without using my serger because it's so fast and easy. I will give you one trick though. This is what the ruffling foot looks like, and it's made so that you can sew a flat piece to a ruffled piece at the same time or increase the ruffling power of the serger. It does that by having this little tongue on the bottom. What's the secret trick? When you get your new ruffling foot, pull this little tongue down just a tiny little bit so it presses a little bit harder on the fabric, and you'll get a slightly better ruffle. And pretty easy to do. Let's take off that clear foot. Insert this foot on. Remember, it has that tongue, so we're going to approach it from the back to the front. Pull it on in, scooch it on in. There we go. Dock it, lower that presser foot, and it's just going to click into place. Perfect. Now, let's talk a little bit about how we can use two different ways of ruffling in heirloom sewing. One way is you can gather the fabric and sew it to the lace, just like I sewed all those other flat fabrics to the lace. What I would do is I would gather the fabric before I'm sewing it to the lace. Yes, you can sew two together and have it just one gather and one to flat at the same time. But what happens is when you're making a garment, you might want to control the amount of ruffle that you have. You may need to gather this much into this much, and you want to be able to control that. So what I do is I gather my fabric before I attach it to my lace. So let's change over to gathering. Here's some fun little different lace. I wanted to show you all different kinds of laces. This one is really pretty. This one is made so that you can weave a satin ribbon or any other kind of ribbon through these holes, and it really pumps up the color, gives you another expression, and it's really pretty. So now let's gather this yellow piece of fabric before we attach it to this kind of insertion lace. We're going to do that the same way, but we're going to go away from the rolled hem to gather our fabric. So I'm going to change back. It's super easy. I'm going to go back to just regular serging. I have the right needle in, so I'm going to go up to the B setting, and that's it. No magic. I am going to make sure that my stitch length that I've chosen is going to be the maximum setting, which is 4. Now, this machine is going to gather this fabric really good. I forgot. I needed to increase my differential feed. Well, maybe there's 3 things you need to change. Now this is a lightweight fabric and it's gathering really easy, and I have my ruffling foot on there. It's really helping. Another thing that you can do, another trick, is kind of put your finger back here and keep the fabric under the foot a little bit longer as it's gathering. You'll get slightly more gathers, if you need slightly more gathers. And I have a pretty gathered, really fun piece of fabric that I can add to my lace. Now I need to put it on there with that rolled hem, right? You saw how easy it was to change to this? Let's change it back. I'm going to go back to neutral, switch it over to rolled hem. And yes, there's 3 things to change. I'm going back to that D setting. So you can see as you're making a garment, or whatever you're making, you can flow back and forth really fast and easy. And you don't have to get out all kinds of crazy stuff to figure out how to make your machine go from one technique to the other. So to attach this, all I really need to do is take this. I'm going to put the lace on the top, obviously, so I can see where the join is. But it's already gathered on the bottom, and I'm just going to roll in and trim that off with my rolled hem. Let's take that ruffling foot off. Because I really like my clear foot for this. It's easy to change, but you got to remember to do the stuff you got to do. So I'm not going to do this whole thing. Let's just cut off a little bit right here and attach this to this. So now I have ruffle to a really pretty piece. Now, when I came to the end, I sewed off a little bit, not really close to the lace, because I wanted to show you something. See how I was a little off right here? Well, these red threads, they're going to come out. I can pull them out because I really don't need them. But if I've missed a little bit when I'm sewing, and you might be sewing something big, those are called holidays because we've missed it just a little bit. What I would do, I don't have to redo the whole thing. I'm just going to go over to my sewing machine and sew right along here where I should have sewn with the serger and just fix that. Simple to fix with your sewing machine if you get a little bit off. But I think you can agree, some pretty fun techniques. Take that ribbon and put it through there. Oh, so sweet. Now, one more little gathering thing I wanted to show you. And you could use this, it's called puffing. And it's really when you just gather both sides. Yep, you're right. We have to go back to the regular ruffling foot and not the rolled hem, but it's super easy to do. Let's see if I can remember all the steps this time. Step 1, take off the clear foot. Put on the gathering foot. Check. Change the machine to not differential feed. Check. Turn it from rolled hem to regular sewing and give yourself a long stitch length. And change the stitch selector up to B. If we were using a left-hand needle, we would use stitch selector A. Remember, I have those other videos, ruffles and bows on the Babylock Serger, and it's Serge Easy, a broomstick skirt, that really dive deep into ruffling. So let's ruffle both sides, and I think we might be good to go. So here's a big piece of that fabric again. This is so simple. All you're going to do is you're going to gather both sides. Now I'm going to gather this side. I went a little bit slower on that side because it was already kind of puffy. Here's another trick. Take your strip and kind of move it like this, and it's going to pull all those pretty gathers into the most prettiest puffing strip that you'd ever want to see. How do I attach this? Well, I attach it to fabric with a rolled hem. I attach it to lace with a rolled hem. How do I attach it to a piece of entredot? With a rolled hem. So that you can see just with these simple, I didn't even have to change the threads. Just with a simple way that I can adjust this Babylock Accolade, I can flow through a garment lickety-split. Or a nightgown, if I have those hot summer nights I have to get through. So attaching trim with the cover stitch, I said if we had time we would do that. But it's really simple. All you do is you change this machine over to do a cover stitch, which is that stitch with the 2 threads on the top, and it looks like the hem that you have on your knits. And if you're attaching any kind of trim, just put that trim down there, sew over the top of it, and it's going to sew both sides of it, keep it really flat at the same time. Super simple. Technique Cincher Inspiration Guide. Thanks for watching me today. I hope you will be inspired to go out. Don't have to break the bank. Get some muslin. Get some inexpensive laces. Try it on your serger. You may fall in love. And who knows, maybe you're making a wedding dress that looked like you sewed it by hand. I'm going to send it off to George. He's going to tell you a little bit more about the Accolade. Don't forget your handout and get out there and start serging.
Thanks, Cathy. As always, that was an incredible presentation. The Babylock Accolade is quite an amazing serger. It combines both a cover hem and a serger all in one, with such exclusive features that Babylock's known for, like air threading, but auto thread delivery eliminates the need for tension, so you can sew on all different types of fabric with different thread, and all you do is know your ABCs. You select the dial based on the suggested setting, and everything is perfect for you. And I love that about Babylock. But the fact that you can sew all 8 threads for ruffling or working with the decorative wave stitch, it truly is a top-of-line serger. And we have an incredible buy on this here. The Babylock Accolade has a package retail value of $5,744. Right now, we have it on sale for $34.99. We're offering interest-free payments as well as free shipping across the country. But wait, there's a bonus. So right now, we're including the Babylock Accolade Inspirational Guide. This gives you full color, step-by-step instructions to do virtually everything that this serger does. And it does a lot. We're also including a selection of Madeira Aerolock thread, as well as 6 Babylock accessory feet, which includes the Ruffling Foot, Elastic Foot, one for sewing lace, piping, and more. Besides that, you get a membership to Babylock Love of Knowledge. This is a very comprehensive training portal where there are videos on how to operate this serger, as well as doing techniques on a serger in general and using accessories. This total value of the bonus is nearly $350, and it's included with the Babylock Accolade for a limited time. So give us a call at 1-800-865-9664 or click on the link to purchase the Accolade today.